What's up, guys? A few things to talk about today. Let's talk about why Bitcoin surged this first part of the year. I actually heard an interesting theory yesterday that I hadn't heard yet. Also, looks like Jerome Powell has COVID. That's another thing, kind of leading into the interest rate hikes and everything going on over there with the broader economy. And then the other thing, too, is Microsoft laying off 10,000 employees. So let's get into this. So the theory that was sent to me by one of my sleeper agents out west was basically, it was from Tucker Carlson from Fox News. And if you watch the whole thing, and this was like a tweet with the video attached to it, and if you listen to the whole thing, it was actually an interesting theory, and it actually kind of made sense in the end. So essentially what it was that the air traffic control system went down in the United States, which was the first time that had happened since 9/11. The terrorist attacks, 9/11, and then like the next day, the Canadian system, air traffic control system, went down in a similar type manner, and they're not interconnected or anything, I guess. And then that had previously happened in the Philippines as well. And the theory behind it was that it was a hacker had taken it down and then charged ransom to allow it to be brought back up, or to give them the encryption so that they could bring it back up. And we've seen this happen with various different kind of these BitLocker attacks, where they'll lock people's files up, and you have to pay Bitcoin and stuff to get it out. And I saw this clear back in like 2014, and it continues to happen. And so that was the theory behind it, is that actually the air traffic control system had been shut down, and then the U.S. government had to buy tons of Bitcoins to essentially pay off the ransom so they could get the air traffic control system back up. And then the same thing happened to the Canadians. And this all coincides with when this surged. Now, maybe it was a combination of things in my mind. Let's just pretend that did happen. I felt like it was a plausible theory, kind of when you thought about it, and when everything went parabolic. Because when you think about when Bitcoin was going parabolic here just about 8-9 days ago, you're scratching your head, because on that same day, really bad news came out that the SEC was suing Gemini and Genesis. And that would be like a really bad kind of news cycle day. It's like, oh, great. Now, Genesis obviously being a major exchange in the United States, major fiat gateway, and Genesis having all these loans and these connections to FTX, that this whole contagion was going on and on and on. You think that would be a really bad day. Really wasn't much talked about it. And, Bitcoin prices were going parabolic. Now, there is the premise that people who had sold at the end of last year to basically lock in a loss, and then they had to rebuy their assets in the new year, in 2023. So I think that there's a premise of that. And then also, the stock market was going up I feel the same premise, that people were locking in the losses for 2022 last year in December, and they had to rebuy that stuff here in 2023. And that's why the first, week or so of the stock market, first week or two, essentially it went up about 6-7%. And then Bitcoin was up about 25%. So, pretty aggressive moves. And then obviously there were some other aggressive moves, always with Solana and Avalanche and some other stuff. So there was some positive news with like Avalanche. There was a partnership signed. So that being said, I didn't feel like that the good news kind of warranted this straight up move. Now, what I think is going to happen at this point, whether the air traffic control thing happened or not, I think we're going to get Bart Simpson. And if you're familiar, if you haven't been around much, or if you're new to it, essentially that's when the price just kind of goes straight up, and then it flags sideways, make like the top of Bart Simpson's head, just zigzag, and then it'll just go straight down. And a lot of this seems to be kind of this calculated attack by whales, where they'll basically see weakness. They'll see like there's a bunch of short positions, they can blow through that. And in this one, $500 million worth of short positions were blown out in this parabolic move with Bitcoin. Then it goes sideways. They kind of exhaust, buyers. Essentially, they look for weakness, and then they can bring the price back down, and then they can do the process over again later on. and they'll just continue to do this. And we saw a lot of this during 2018. It was just this continual pattern, the Bart Simpson thing, just over and over and over. And we've seen it this time too. So that being said, be aware of that. That could happen. I don't know if we're going to see further evidence in the future, if the air traffic controller theory has any validity, but I felt like it was plausible. It was plausible. That's what I want to say. With the layoffs from Microsoft, I saw this Rules for Rebels posted a video earlier today, actually, and he mentioned the layoffs and stuff like that. And then about an hour ago, I saw basically it was coming out that it was going to be 10,000 jobs, what was reported and stuff like that they were laying 10,000 people off. We're going to see more and more and more and more of this, continual layoffs, and several rounds of layoffs. And someone in the comment section posted below, oh, well, if they get loaded up from Microsoft, they'll just be able to just easily get a job somewhere else. And kind of, Johnny from Rules for Rebels said, and then I also chimed in on this, where it was just like, well, who's really hiring? A lot of those people are just going to be left out in the dust because there's hiring freezes or other companies are doing layoffs and stuff like that. And also realize that Microsoft is heavily invested in OpenAI, who, is creating these artificial intelligence and is behind ChatGPT. And when you look at this stuff and its ability, and these are just free tools out there, they've probably got more advanced tools on the back end. You got to think as a programmer at Microsoft or any other company, especially at Microsoft, because they would have access to more of these advanced tools potentially, that this can aid a programmer. And you can pare this down, and it's like, well, okay, we have 20 programmers in this group. Get rid of all but 5 of the best, and then have those 5 just use AI to assist them in debugging their code and working through these solutions. And I mean, I'm serious when I'm saying, if you're able to use these AI tools right now, you can literally just kind of magnify your efficiency by 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. I mean, on some of the stuff, I feel like I can do the work of 20 different people. And it'll debug code, play with it. Take some known code and remove some things, or change some characters, or remove a semicolon, break the code so that that something you'd have to debug, throw it in there and ask ChatGPT, what's wrong with this code? Can you help me with this code? And a lot of times it'll find a syntax error, some kind of misspelling. Maybe you mislabeled a variable, something went wrong and it broke the code. And then obviously a lot of the graphic stuff, you think about like different development, different marketing stuff, all that kind of stuff, where you have a bunch of people, graphic designers, coming up with a bunch of concepts and stuff like that. Well, I mean, Midjourney can just crank out concept after concept after concept. Now, like I said before, I feel like Midjourney is a good name for it because it's kind of midway through from concept to the finished product. You still need graphic designers to take it the rest of the way, especially on wording and stuff. When it tries to put any lettering or wording in there, for whatever reason, it's messed up and it doesn't say like what you told it to put in there, which I find curious. So I don't know if they have tools that don't do that and will actually put the wording in they want. But at the end of the day, even if they pared down, if they had 20 graphic designers and they chopped that down to 5, they might be able to survive. And that's the reality with a lot of different companies right now. They can lean up, and have their best be AI assisted, and maybe get just as much work done as they were getting done 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. That being said, on to the Jerome Powell thing. I guess he has COVID, and they mention he's up to date on his COVID shots and his booster. So we know what that means. His immunity's broken, and he's probably going to end up being sicker than most of us that never bought into the scam, never got the vaccine, so on and so forth. So that is something that's happening. I don't wish him ill well. I hope he gets better, all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, there is some movement in, I guess, healthcare workers are relieved from being forced into mandates with the COVID stuff, and that a judge did rule that basically the thing didn't work anyway, and so why would we keep mandating this? So that's a step in the right direction with that. So that being said, guys, what's kind of going on out there? Are you guys seeing more layoffs from your perspective? Are you guys surprised in the 10,000 additional layoffs from Microsoft? I just, this is going to be a continued thing. You're going to see tens of thousands of employees laid off here, there. And it seems like the tech has kind of led it, but it's still happening. It's not like all the layoffs are done in the tech sector, which is collapsing some of the real estate prices, like in places like San Jose, California, obviously, up in the Bay Area, up in Seattle. And those real estate prices had made very, very aggressive moves. So some of those companies had large presence there, and then the tide is going out. A lot of people getting laid off, and then they might be getting out of Dodge, looking for other opportunities somewhere else. So hope everybody's safe. Hope you guys are finding opportunities out there. Anyway, guys, follow me on all social media at Brian Phobos, YouTube, Instagram, Steam, Twitter, Hive, DTube, everywhere. See ya.